Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to UncommonCents number 76. Craig Kouimanis is here today as the solo host. We figured we've got enough good-looking talent in the room, and so we've left Dean Holmes at home somewhere. But I think Dean might be sneakily listening on LinkedIn, boys, so we better be careful that,
Be careful what you say.
the boss is watching. We need to stay accountable. But, what a great topic that we've got to drive today around financial literacy. And I'm very, very pleased to introduce to you James and Sam, who are going to join us today from a business called Future Finances, with a massive focus on financial literacy, which I'm sure anyone who's listening to this live or later on a podcast will understand the importance of this very topic right through the country. But boys, welcome to UncommonCents, and thank you for being with us.
Appreciate you having us. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. The great thing we figured out is that we all live in Adelaide. So we're having a little pre-chat before we came on live, and all residents of what we affectionately call Radelaide. So this podcast has just gone through the roof as well, just based on purely where we live. But I want to start off from a personal level. What led each of you to focus on financial literacy as a passion and a profession? Maybe Sam, we'll kick off with you, mate.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I think for me, it was just a real desire to I love to help people, and I think something like personal finance, it's such a taboo topic, especially in the younger ages. Everyone comes from different upbringings, different backgrounds, and our real desire was just to bring this education, these core fundamental principles that, like, we can all agree here, everyone should have the right to know. Like, these aren't things that should be exclusive to like some elite club, and it's just the real drive to make that as accessible as possible. I had the privilege of having a dad in the industry, so picked up bits and pieces along the way, but obviously this isn't everyone's experience. And yeah, just like having friends through school, even now meeting young people, it's just the perfect age to kind of instill some of these principles so that to see them live a fulfilled and full life. Yeah, I'd say that's been my real drive.
That's great, mate. James, how about you, mate?
Yeah, I previously exited a prior company to create this, and it was really funny. Sam and I were at a cafe one day and we started chatting, and we almost had the same idea, and the company just evolved from there. But the reason why I couldn't get this business idea and delivering financial education to students around Australia out of my head was really twofold. One, it is such a need and it is such a gap, and there's a number of reasons why financial education isn't in schools currently. But when you look into the financial stress rates and the ramifications that has, not just from a wealth building perspective, but a psychological perspective, a well-being perspective, it's really critical. And when Sam and I started talking about this, we just knew we had to do something in this space. And the second was, growing up, there were quite a number of personal reasons, some bad financial decisions, and money was always a conversation, and sort of a divisive conversation in the family growing up. And so I think this also led to an innate passion in me to be interested into getting this space from an education perspective, but also in an advice delivery perspective.
Yeah, you're so spot on, guys. Like, I think there's not a parent in the world, there's not a parent in Australia that I haven't spoken to that hasn't said, I don't know why something like this is not in the curriculum.
Yeah.
From a particular year level and above. I mean, I know I've got one in second year uni and I've got one in year 11, and I sit there and go, why isn't financial literacy an actual subject that these kids are actually learning and managing and doing? So let's move into the business side of things. For those who don't know, and there's probably many wondering what Future Finances actually is about and does, given that you've sort of in your launch phase and getting going. So why don't you let our listeners know what the business is all about?
Very simply, we're a financial education program for high schools. So we work with anywhere from year 9 to year 12 students, delivering an array of financial topics from budgeting to investing to superannuation to consumerism, even fundamental topics from a mindset perspective like deferred gratification, living below your means. So Sam can speak more into how we deliver this, but we've packaged this into an elite learning program with a workbook. And we're starting with high schools, but we're also looking to deliver financial education workshops, work with nonprofits. And even what we're finding as we have more conversations in this space is it's not just for students. We're talking to teachers and they're saying, I need this for myself. We're talking to parents of students and they're saying, where's my course for this? So we have found out this is a much bigger market than just students, but that's where we're focusing our attention for now.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously it's mainly at the moment with kids, as you've said. So what do you think? What's your view of what is the final, like the financial education that's typically missing for them?
It's not covered in schools at all. One of the key reasons for that is a lot of the topics you need to be licensed from the top down perspective, from a compliance perspective. So we've got a great team. So it's not just Sam and I. We've got a team of Scott Kirkwood, Sam's father, who's obviously a very renowned financial advisor, Stephanie Mitchell, who's a partner of an advisory firm in Melbourne, and Nicole Hills, who runs her own advisory practice in Adelaide. In terms of what's missing, though, I think when we talk about financial education literacy with people, get very caught up on what does inflation mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? Get very caught up in the terminology. What we've found is all that really, really matters from a starting point is the mindset and being able to sort of navigate a world where the majority of people under 25 are now in afterpay debt. Everyone's in credit card debt. There's all this advertising selling us this lifestyle. There's all these finfluencers online. This is where kids are getting their education from now. And if you ask parents, what did you learn when it comes to financial literacy in schools? They would say, I didn't learn it. If you ask kids, what do you learn when it comes to financial literacy in schools now? They would say, oh, this person told me something on TikTok. And so that's where they're getting funneled information. So in terms of how we go about like helping teach proper financial education, I'll let Sam talk more into that. But that's really where the issue started from.
Yeah. So why do you guys think it's still such a major issue? I mean, Australia is a really developed country. I often find myself going, it's 2025. Why are we still in that? But so why do you think it's still an issue? Is it because of that lack of education? Or is there other stuff you found, something sparked you?
Yeah. I mean, definitely one of the reasons that James alluded to a second ago is that from a compliance standpoint, it's very difficult for teachers to really speak into any of these topics. I mean, even just from a general advice or personalized, it's hard to speak to a group of students and really kind of unpack some of the core financial literacy topics. I think like there is a shift in schools. Well, we've seen great adoption with the schools that we've spoken to. There's definitely a need in schools and a desire for this type of learnings for the students. I think, it's just been a matter of there hasn't been a real solution. There hasn't really been someone committed to understanding the education space, which can be difficult to navigate. A lot of schools, it's a very like relationship based, very trust based, and coming as an outsider really in the industry even if you're well known in the finance world, that doesn't really mean anything to schools. It's definitely credibility is a part of that, but it's just about building the trust and knowing that really our program does serve the needs of what they're after, and the way that we've designed it with a seamless fit for teachers to roll out. The teachers don't really need to know anything themselves. There's been a bit of a barrier as well. Sometimes they've been a little bit hesitant to try and teach this because maybe they don't know it themselves, and that's a tricky position to be in if there's student questions or if just leading a class in that regard.
I'll extend on that with just one more point. I was talking to a leader at a school here in South Australia the other day, and the curriculum's set until 2028. Like, this isn't changing. Financial literacy in schools, despite everyone seeing the statistics around how important it is. I mean, 60% of 26 to 40-year-olds in Australia experience financial stress. 70% of 13 to 25-year-olds in Australia are saying they're financially stressed. And our numbers, our data with schools are very aligned to that as well. But it's not changing, which is why an external program, which is what we're trying to do, to plug this into a school in an environment and in a way where we can engage kids as opposed to just speaking to them. So engaging them through different ways of learning has been so critical, and it's been responded to very well so far.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? Like, I look at the subject selections now and, you got micro, macroeconomics and all this stuff. And it's like, it's good base knowledge, but it's not helping you run a household. It's not helping you go, when I start delivering pizzas at Domino's twice a week and I'm getting X amount of money, what do I do with that? Like, it's not helping you going, well, if I use my car, am I actually even making any money? Like it's, there's all these little bits and pieces that I'm sure you guys have triggered into. So you've obviously done a lot of work on how you actually get them to engage with the financial topics that you're putting out there. So I think, Sam, you're going to take us through some of the mechanics, if I was right.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Take us through the mechanics of how this is working.
Yeah, we really set out on a goal to try and take some of these dry, maybe uninteresting topics of finance and really bring it to life and really make it as engaging as we can for a younger audience. Attention is what we're all fighting for, especially with kids and how much they have access to through their phones or through their devices. So we tried to tackle learning through various angles, acknowledging that a lot of students learn differently. We have a video. The core of the learning is through an e-learning portal with video education. This is a great way for us to be able to bring these advisors into the classroom at such a low cost for the schools as well. It's all e-learning distribution. And then every student as well get their own workbook. I've got one here to show you that this really complements the program, complements the video education. It's got infographic summaries of core ideas for each lesson, and they're able to go in between a video, refer to the book, and it really be quite an interactive experience. Another layer to the program that we included was following the life of a fictional character called Penny. A lot of the principles we teach, it's all well and good to say, hey, save for your home, here's how you reduce your mortgage, but these kids can't do anything about that right now. But we know a huge part of learning is putting into action what you've learned. So where that gets a little bit tricky to do so, they're able to apply it to a fictional life. Penny, she's got her own income, she's got her own goals, and they can really see themselves inside of her life. And then I guess the fourth layer to how we teach it is the real values-based discussion through a lot of mindset journal questions in the book. It's been really cool to hear how some teachers have reported back the level of just even class discussion, which has kind of gone rogue from what we maybe have provided. But it's great to hear that kids are, they're interested in chatting about these topics. They've got questions. They love to hear how their peers have been brought up viewing money, or what they do. They get pocket money, all these things that we sometimes we don't know exactly what they're talking about throughout the lessons, but just the idea that the conversation has been opened and that people are talking about such an important topic, it's all that we could ask for, really.
Yeah,
is there anything you wanted to add to that, James?
No, it's a really good summary. We have some other things as well, the features in the e-learning portal, like interactive quizzes. We're working on some AI portal things as well. But yeah, it's a good summary, Sam.
Is there a favorite part of the stuff you've put together, or is there a particular session that you guys love the most, or you're getting feedback from the users so far that they love the most? Or
for me, it just comes back to the mindset stuff. I'll give you a quick piece of feedback we got from a student at St. Aloysius. She said that she wouldn't know how to afford her medical expenses if it wasn't for this program. And that was quite a heart-touching thing for us here, because you're 15 years old. You shouldn't be worried about how you're going to pay for medical expenses one day. We look at the feedback from students, and Sam's got some data on this as well we can run you through. But the stress, the comments from these kids, which are listening at the age of 15, 16, is so worrying. So for them to go through the program and say things like they're less stressed now, or they at least have some sort of a roadmap that they're going to be okay, is by far the best thing. And I think that's achieved throughout our whole program. I'll give you a quick story I'm not sure if you're familiar, Craig, with the ASX trading game at all.
Yes, yep, I know, yep.
Yep. So every time we meet with a school, that's what they're doing. That's the extent of it. They maybe learned about the compound interest formula in maths, and they do the ASX trading game. And I coach basketball at a school here in South Australia, and one of the kids comes to a session and says, "Oh, I just lost $20,000. I'm like, "What are you talking about? How do you have $20,000? Where did this money come from?" And he's like, "Oh, the ASX trading game." And I was finding out about it. I was like, "Oh, what is it? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I bought an individual stock and it went down." I was like, "Okay, what stock was it?" And he couldn't tell me. I was like, "Why'd you buy it?" He couldn't tell me. And I was like, wow, this is what we're giving kids in school, is to buy an individual stock you know nothing about, with a amount of money that means nothing to you. Like, there is no financial advisor in the country which would ever recommend that. And it's not that buying individual stocks is necessarily bad. It's just that for the average person, that is not the route to wealth accumulation. So what we sort of teach and preach is long-term, diversified, passive approach, so that you can know you're going to be okay when you're 60. But this really takes a lot of maturity for a kid to understand now. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, it is that mindset stuff, and understanding the decisions you make now have an exponential impact later in your life. And if you can get a kid to sort of bridge that maturity gap to start taking some actions now, that is all we can ever ask for.
Yeah, well, I hear you, mate. Let's get them used to running a household first before we make them stock analysts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't even really want to mention it, but you could almost argue that game's teaching people to gamble a bit, which is not the direction we could be sending.
We agree.
It's really damaging. Yeah.
But so the interesting part I heard there, James, like it was like the perception I took, like when you just said that one of the students, she was saying, oh, I was worried about how I'm going to afford my medical expenses. I hear a really positive story in that when you said that, because the fact is, when kids are at home, they think the water just comes out the tap, that the medicine supplies just show up, that the TV just turns on, all of these things. And if you guys are having that kind of impact where it's getting them to actually go, well, that stuff doesn't just turn up.
Yeah.
Like someone's had to earn money and spend money and make all of that happen. Like, that actually makes my heart happy, that if you guys, the program you've built is getting that kind of thought process into their minds a bit early, I think you're nailing your brief.
You're spot on. There's really two parts to it, though. There's an awareness piece. So you're right. From one perspective, it is great if a kid is realizing, okay, this isn't just going to come through a tap. I'm going to have to fund this myself one day. But without the solution piece attached to that piece, that's when the stress happens. So the fact that she had the awareness, which is absolute kudos to her, and maybe she had that anyway, but then to also come out of it and be like, okay, I'm going to be okay if I follow some basic principles, was just amazing for us to see.
So, I mean, I might have answered the question I was going to ask you there, but like, have you thought about how you're going to measure impact or success and what the wins look like with this program?
Yeah. We have a pre and post survey test that the students complete as they do the program. We wanted to try and assess the success in a way on two levels. One, real tangible, like education, financial literacy, like how well do you actually understand these topics? But then also on the more qualitative, like the confidence, how's your stress levels, how's your positive money value adoption going? And so really kind of getting a gauge how students are in that side. And the results have been so much better than what we could hope for. Just use a couple here. Student understanding and confidence towards financial concepts increased from 25% before to over 70% afterwards. So significant increase there in how they're able to understand these core concepts. And it's no surprise that they're not being taught them. So like even just the fact that they're being taught, but we really believe that you could have someone up there for a 3-hour lecture and it'd be the most boring thing ever and students aren't going to grasp it. So we really worked hard at making it digestible, short videos, infographics, so that they are able to retain the information. And then just little things like 92% of students said that they're now motivated to actually implement these good habits in their own life. That's an awesome result, that if we can just drop a seed into these young kids, these lives, and then now they actually want to do the work of implementing the ideas, then we've done our job. And then like we know how just dollar cost averaging and compound interest works over a long time. We're very fulfilled with our job if we get them to that point.
Yeah, so it sounds like the trend is like, how much of it is really about numbers versus how much of it is about mindset and habit. And it feels like from what you're saying, this mindset and habit is almost sort of outdoing just the actual number stuff. Is that a fair assessment?
That's right. Yeah, I think that's really the key for us. We did also want to give kids a tangible roadmap they can start taking action on as well. So we speak to this a 9-step framework in our learning. So like overarching all of that, we see the mindset is the empowerment tool to actually take action in your life. But we also need to go the next step and say, okay, well, what is that action? So we have 4 phases of learning and 9 steps in our program. So the phases of learning is Learn, which is about learning financial foundations, empowering your money mindset. So we believe before you can even look at investing, you got to learn all the basics first. Then it's Plan. So this is about planning your financial future. So reviewing your finances, setting up a budget, setting up your account structure. Then it's Build. So building financial security in your life, eliminating bad debt. Obviously for kids, understanding what bad debt is so critical in a world where everyone's in credit card debt these days. And then Grow. So only once we get through the first 3 phases, now we're looking at growing our financial future. So some of the steps that sort of follow this is living below your means, setting financial goals, reviewing, tracking your spending, creating an emergency fund, paying off bad debt, investing 10% into a diversified index. Like things like this are really the action, but overarching that, none of that's achieved without the mindset.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's next for Future Finances then? Is there anything, you obviously got this, is there anything exciting on the horizon?
Well, the conferences, Sam?
We're very excited to be exhibiting and speaking at 2 major education conferences later this year, National Education Summit in Brisbane and in Melbourne. And as we sort of said earlier in the podcast, that just kind of getting into schools and knowing the right people to speak to can be really challenging when you're not already from within the education system. So we're eager to speak to a room of heads of departments, principals, teachers, and really just use it as an opportunity to, well, actually like provide real value for them in their own lives. What an awesome opportunity to even just share some little bits and pieces about how they could implement change in their own life. Knowing that these teachers and principals maybe weren't taught it at schools themselves, it's a great way to reveal the need for current students if there's some lacks in their understanding. So the conference is definitely a big focus. We're also building up more of like workshops that we're able to do, partnering with corporates or not-for-profits, condensing a 3-ish hour program into more of a workshop, some different activities more relevant for that stage of life. And we've been having some great feedback from that as well. Really, it's early days, but it's an exciting place to be in. And now we're able to continue to provide real value in such an important area.
And give you some more background. We spent 2.5 years building this business in libraries, late at night, like 40
You mean you didn't just wake up yesterday and launch? Like, come on,
working a job. And it was probably ready to launch 18 months ago. And then it was probably ready to launch 12 months ago. But we didn't launch until the end of last year because we didn't want to, frankly, half-ass the product. We wanted to deliver something we could be proud of and that would get actionable takeaways. So I think we're both just really excited to just get as many schools as we can this year and then just evolve from there in the ways that Sam just mentioned.
Great. I think there's one last question that will sum up this beautifully, but what is it that you hope your legacy will be in this space?
You want to take that first, Sam, or me?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think it's quite simple, really, that if we can help these students before they start earning, just there's the 2 scenarios of how life could play out just by adding a few, like implementing a few ideas could really be quite drastic. And so it's a great responsibility that we have and also an opportunity to ultimately change lives, the course of someone's life, security in their retirement. A lot of these things that some people take for granted, others never have the opportunity to be able to implement good habits early that really can set themselves up to achieve their goals. Everyone's goals are different, and we want to just ignite that spark that it is possible. And I guess that's the legacy that can turn generations around. And that's what I think for me that's really significant.
I think everyone remembers that one teacher or that one person in their upbringing who had a drastic impact in their life. And Sam and I, in these years creating it, we always said, if we just created something which is useful for our children, that'd be proud of, we've done our job. If we can just help one person through this, we've done our job. And the statistics are real. Money mismanagement is the #1 contributor to divorce in Australia. It's the 3rd leading contributor to suicide in Australia. If we can just be that program where someone comes out of school and is okay, I feel okay because I've had someone talk to me about this. Often we're so reliant on our socioeconomic environment or switched on parents to provide us with our foundational knowledge. If we could sort of be that North Star for as many kids as possible in Australia, I think we've done our job.
Very, very well said. So now we're getting the message out. How do people find you if they want to contact you and talk to you about it and help you and give you a leg up?
You can come to our website, futurefinances.com.au. We're also on LinkedIn at Future Finances. And then obviously both of our personal LinkedIns, we try and stay active, sharing the news where we can. Yeah, I think they're the main two places.
Fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'll take it upon me on behalf of all the Uncommon Sense listeners and probably every parent in the country and potentially now every teacher, principal and everyone in the country to say congratulations to you both. You have absolutely launched something that is going to fill a gap, no doubt. And, what shines through even more better than any of the programs is the passion that the both of you carry for it. And I know that will make you very successful in your ambition and your goal to get financial literacy through our schools. So it's a massive congratulations from us at Uncommon Sense and probably everyone through the financial advice industry and beyond that, you're tackling a problem and you're hitting it head on and you're doing it in a way that people and students and teachers are no doubt loving. So as we wrap up, congratulations to you both. Thank you for sharing your time with us and taking us through what Future Finances is doing.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Appreciate you having us on.
No, pleasure.
It's been great to be here.
Whether you've watched this live, share it out on LinkedIn if you are watching it live now, or chuck a comment on after to keep the conversation going. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast device a little bit later, Sam and James gave you where to go to find out more about Future Finances, but that was Uncommon Sense number 76. So thank you to everyone for listening along.